大家好，歡迎咧再次嚟到米閱讀分享米 The Reader Podcast。今日咧已經係嚟到第7集啦。今集咧我會分享嘅書咧係講咖啡同埋佢嘅歷史嘅一本英文書 The Devil's Cup。上一集咧我哋講茶啦，今集咧我哋就講咖啡。亦都係我第一次咧係即係直接，因為我係閱讀英文嘅版本啦，咁所以咧今次咧都會用英文咧係朗讀有關嘅選段啦。咁呢一本書嘅作者咧係 Stuart Lee Allen， 係一個美國人嚟嘅。呢本書咧有個有趣點咧就係其實佢係比較調皮嘅一個語氣啦、語調啦，同埋咧就好似即係你會跟住佢好似做緊一啲歷險咁樣。感覺上呢本書唔係一啲好嚴謹嘅寫法，佢唔係好似上次嗰本茶書咧就寫得比較有條理啦，同埋好似跟住個時間線係比較清楚嘅。今次Stuart 咧寫呢個 The Devil's Cup 呢本書咧，我就覺得佢比較好似輕鬆啲啦，有啲似東茶西房、明茶暗房咁樣咧，就自己去經歷，咁啊帶住作者帶住大家讀者咧，就去經歷其實佢去遊走探訪訪尋一啲關於咖啡嘅一啲文化，甚至係一啲嘅沖咖啡嘅一啲體驗啊咁咯。我覺得都好有趣嘅。同埋咧就唔知道我哋當中即係聽眾當中啦，有幾多咧係比較中意咖啡，有幾多咧其實係即係茶嘅擁躉嘅咧。咁我自己咧就係兩樣都有飲嘅。其實我就我覺得好似唔係好健康啦，因為咁樣都會即係我都有注重咖啡因嘅吸入嘅，但係就兩樣都有飲啦。我有時朝頭早會飲杯咖啡，跟住下晝有時會飲茶啊咁。但係就好似隨住年紀大咗咧，覺得自己吸收咖啡因嗰個能力咧低咗，所以咧我都會戒，即係我都會盡量減少啲啦。咁就唔想即係飲即係太多。但係咧，我覺得好得意嘅喎，茶咧好似係比較即係配合一啲個比較平靜啲嘅心情啊，或者下午茶我想食件餅嘅時候咧，我又覺得送茶咧好似開心啲。咁一早咧好似想醒神啲啊，感覺即係好似係咯，提下自己，提升下自己嘅精神咧，我就好似覺得咖啡就適合啲咁咯。唔知大家即係聽眾嘅習慣係點啦？咁我今日咧就開始講下The Devil's Cup 呢本書啦。佢喺即係作者咧喺 Introduction 嘅呢個章節咧，其實佢都已經俾我感覺咧，佢就好似喺度遊走喺一啲嘅市集啊咁。因為當時咧應該係喺印度呢個地方，佢就喺好多即係市集當中咧就見到一啲書報攤當中咧，佢就見到有一個手卷啦。咁佢形容為手卷啦，其實有時我都唔係好肯定即係咩意思啦。但係總之佢喺書報攤咧就見到個手卷，於是咧佢就話咧以下嘅一個章節咧係令佢即係吸引咗佢嘅眼球注意咁。咁我就會選讀咧佢喺呢一度嘅經歷，去俾大家知道佢點樣開始本書啦。The section that caught my eye was the one lamenting the evils of that dark and evil being from Africa. I paraphrase here. Is it any wonder, I asked the reader, that it is told how the black-skinned savages of that continent eat the coffee bean before sacrificing living victims to their gods? One need only compare the violent coffee-drinking societies of the West to the peace-loving tea drinkers of the Orient to realize the pernicious and malignant effect that bitter brew has upon the human soul. You are what you eat. Fruitcakes are as common in India as in California. But what struck me was the contrast to an 18th century French book I'd happened upon in Hanoi, Vietnam. The book, Mon Journal, was written by social critic and historian Jules Michelet, and in it he essentially attributes the birth of an enlightened Western civilization to Europe's transformation into a coffee-drinking society.
For this sparkling outburst of creative thought, there is no doubt that the honor should be ascribed in part to the great event which created new customs and even changed the human temperament, the advent of coffee. How French, I'd thought at the time to attribute the birth of Western civilization to an espresso. 係咪好有趣呢？其實呢，我就冇從呢個角度諗，但係呢，佢用呢個方式去開展呢，直頭係讓我哋開始去期待佢嘅內容究竟會同西方嘅文明有咩關係呢？飲咖啡係咪同呢個革命啦、文化嘅思潮嘅擴散呢有關係呢？咁我就先即係雖然呢本書咧，即係喺嗰個時序上咧，佢其實唔係做得好嚴謹或者好清晰。其實我之後都要自己做翻啲功課咧，去了解翻條時間線嘅。咁但係咧，公道啲講咧，呢本書嘅有趣點咧，就係佢喺嗰個橫向，佢橫向嗰個喺個時間點嘅某一個點上邊咧，放大嗰個時刻咧，喺橫向嗰方面去討論即係唔同嘅文化部落做緊啲咩，同 coffee 即係同咖啡有咩關係咧？其實佢係介紹得幾好。咁我哋首先咧就去一開始嘅起源先啦。佢呢本書都有講啦，就係咧由呢個非洲嘅埃塞俄比亞開始嘅。其實咧佢哋係食豆嘅，佢哋係食咖啡豆，同埋咧亦都係會咀嚼咧咖啡嘅葉嘅。咁原來咧就唔係好似即係或者佢哋嘅食用方法啦，或者係咯唔係飲用嘅方法啦，佢哋係食用呢個 coffee 嘅。咁呢個對我嚟講咧都已經係非常之即係驚訝啦。咁跟住佢有特別提到啦，喺埃塞俄比亞嘅呢個Gari 或者 Oromo 呢一個部落咧，喺佢嘅儀式入邊咧，佢哋係會用咖啡豆咧做祭祀嘅喎。咁亦都會喺誦經嘅時候咧，係飲用呢個咖啡嘅。咁我而家咧就想讀一下咧呢個佢喺呢本書入邊啦，作者咧就收入咗咧Ethiopian 嘅一個prayer 一個禱文啊。The prayer from the Gari Oromo tribe is more serious. Part of a ritual called Bunkai that celebrates sex and death, and in which the coffee bean replaces the fatted ox in a sacrifice to the gods. Among the Gari, the husking of the coffee fruit symbolizes slaughter, with the priests biting the heads of the sacrificial creatures. After this, the beans are cooked in butter and chewed by the elders, their spiritual power thus enhanced. They pronounce a blessing on the proceedings and smear the holy coffee-scented butter on the participants' foreheads. The beans are then mixed with sweet milk, and everybody drinks the liquid while reciting the prayer. 咁你見到佢哋喺即係喺個部落入邊嗰個長輩啦，佢哋係會用一個即係有咖啡味嘅牛油咧，係會咧即係抹喺啦塗抹咧喺參與呢一個儀式嘅人嘅額頭喎。咁其實你會見到佢真係有一種好似宗教成分喺入邊咯。去由呢個埃塞俄比亞啦，後尾我就查資料咧，就發現其實就傳聞咧喺呢個15世紀嘅時候咧，就由咧中東即係阿拉伯人咧，就由埃塞俄比亞咧帶到去呢個也門，即係去翻佢哋中東咧也門呢個地方耶門嘅。咁而喺也門呢個地方嘅人咧，就係到而家都係咧，其實佢哋係會咧飲Kisha 咧，似乎咧係比咖啡咧更加即係 common 常見。咁咩叫做 Kisha 咧 ？Kisha 咧就只係咧用咖啡豆嘅外殼去煮嘅啫。 咁呢個咖啡豆聽作者講呢，就覺得好淡啦，即係呢一種 Kisha 嘅飲品呢就好淡，其實佢就麻麻地中意嘅。我就覺得自己都想象到啦，如果即係淨係用個咖啡豆嘅外殼煮呢，應該就唔係太濃味道嘅。喺呢度呢，我就想讀一讀呢，作者呢，佢喺呢一度想揾人呢，即係佢想睇下呢點樣煮呢個 Kisha。咁但係大家想象到啦，中東咧就即係比較，因為佢係一個男性啦，咁佢要去即係採訪啲人咧，其實揾女性，如果佢哋女性係煮呢個 Kisha 咧，其實佢就唔容易揾到，咁所以佢就要去問一啲男性啦。咁而家我就讀出咧，佢咧點樣揾呢班人嘗試去觀察一下咧，點樣煮呢個 Kisha 啦。It was my third visit.He described to me again the traditional method of brewing, which can involve up to a dozen different pots of Kisha, some bitter, some sweet, some long brewed, which are then blended carefully to create the perfect cup. There was one family, he said, whose women were renowned throughout Yemen for their Kisha.I asked if I could perhaps meet them. Unthinkable, he said. A woman of Sana'a show a foreign man how to cook Kisha? Well then, I asked, could he get me the recipe? Equally inconceivable. Just their names, maybe. Everything was impossible. But there was a cafe he knew that had good Kisha. Nothing as exquisitely mind-bending as these families. That was Kisha, but good enough for a foreigner. 咁後嚟呢，即係呢個作者呢，其實佢係真係去睇到呢一個 Kisha 嘅煮法嘅。即係啦，佢就可以即係記錄喺佢本書度啦。咁好啦，去到也門呢個時間啦，其實咧就係穆斯林啦，都即係信奉伊斯蘭教嘅教徒咧，其實都就有開始飲呢個咖啡。但係咧，其實穆斯林咧又唔係所有人都接受嘅。咁尤其是喺16世紀啦，即係有段時間咧，其實都係有即係討論同埋即係爭議過，究竟穆斯林係可唔可以飲咖啡嘅咧？咁大家可能都想象到點解會好似覺得唔可以咧？咁比較一個明顯啲嘅原因咧，就係佢好似有啲刺激性嘅成分。有少少似即係要純潔虔誠啲嘅教徒咧，係唔應該即係好似要齋戒一啲啦，就唔應該咧食一啲咁或者飲用一啲咧咁濃烈或者咁有刺激性嘅一啲飲料啊。咁所以咧就有掙扎咧，就究竟或者爭議啦嚇，就係究竟應唔應該穆斯林咧應唔應該飲用嘅？咁另外仲有一個爭議係其實牽涉到咧蘇菲派，即係呢個穆斯林教派入邊咧，佢哋認為啦比較係叫異端嘅一個蘇菲派嘅即係一個教派咧，佢哋有飲用咖啡，咁所以咧都令佢哋咧有啲罩忌，就唔係好想飲啦。咁我而家咧就讀出即係我就選讀一段啦，就作者咧就住呢樣嘢咧去記錄低呢一個爭議。The next day, Mr. Beck convened a hearing of religious scholars to decide whether this new drink was legal under Islamic law. The official objections to coffee were threefold. One, it was an intoxicant.And so, like wine, forbidden. 2. The Sufi's pre-prayer cup of joe was passed hand to hand, an act also associated with drinking alcohol. 3. It was roasted to the point of carbonization, a process forbidden in the Quran. Islamic law is essentially the Quran,which specifically forbids alcoholic fermented drinks. coffee was clearly not a fermented fruit beverage. So the zealots at the hearing claimed it was illegal because it excites the mind. A pot of coffee was brought in so the judges could try it for themselves. This, of course, was much too simple for this bunch of Poindexters, all of whom refused to sample the devilish brew. Mr. Beck had apparently foreseen this and brought out 2 doctors to testify to the drink's horrific effects, according to the 18th century manuscript. Mr. Beck 咧就係嗰個喺麥加聖城啦嚇，佢係即係提出咧穆斯林咧係唔應該飲用，即係或者佢爭議咧就係argue for 啦嚇，就係佢禁止呢個咖啡咧係飲用嘅。咁的而且確咧係有成效喎，喺1511至到1525年左右啦。的而且確咧喺麥加咧係禁止飲用啦。咁喺1539年嘅開羅，即係埃及嘅開羅咧，都咧 ban 咗咖啡嘅喎咁。但係咧就我睇翻後來又再查翻其他資料啦，就發現咧其實佢哋只係 ban 咗短時間。咁因為咧都有一個幾大嘅爭議，就係咧其實只要《可蘭經》入邊咧係冇特別提及，亦都冇註明係要禁止嘅話咧，其實就唔需要禁用啦咁。所以咧最後咧就即係支持咖啡嘅嗰派咧就勝出咗，咁所以咧最後都係冇禁到咖啡嘅。咁後嚟咧發生咩事咧？到咗大約17世紀啦，其實土耳其嘅鄂圖曼帝國啦，佢哋都有一大段時間咧，都有好多咖啡館咧就好興盛嘅。咁但係就到咗中段時間，即係17世紀嘅中段咧，又即係對咖啡咧有好大嘅禁制喎。咁呢一部分咧，其實我就唔係好肯定點解咁樣發生，因為我睇書啊，或者係即係呢本書啊，或者係出邊嘅一啲都即係一邊嘅出邊嘅resources 啊 sources 啊，我都唔係好見到點解嘅。咁但係總之又會喺呢段時間咧，大約喺17世紀咧，其實係有傳入去到歐洲。咁就喺呢個時間咧，相反咧就喺歐洲嗰度咧係開始受到熱愛啦。咁啊希望以啡咧代酒，咁當時咧應該主要係代啤酒啦，嚟減少呢個社會問題。同樣啦，呢本書咧都冇特別提到，咁但係我亦都有查資料咧，就據說咧當時點解會由也門可以即係去到呢個傳入去歐洲嘅咧？咁其實咧就係荷蘭咧有人咧係從也門呢個地方偷咗一啲咖啡嘅種子啦，就去咗佢哋當時嘅殖民地，即係荷蘭人嘅殖民地咧印尼喺爪哇島嗰度咧就自己種植。咁後嚟咧就種植得好好啦，就有自己印尼咖啡嘅出品啦咁所以咧就因為咁咧就透過荷蘭人喺佢哋嘅殖民地嗰度咧就向歐洲咧將呢個咖啡咧就發揚光大啦。我就見跟住翻嚟呢本書啦，其實呢本書咧就有提到咧當時17世紀左右啦，其實Puritans 即係呢個新教徒啦，佢哋其中一個教派係 Puritans，佢哋咧就係好想咧阻止啲人咧成日飲酒，即係佢好想解決咧呢個飲酒嘅問題啊。咁但係咧當時即係好似一路都唔係好揾到方法嘅，因為冇嘢可以取代。即係如果你要叫啲人咧唔好飲酒咧，咁你都要揾啲方法令佢哋不如即係代替佢啦。咁但係一路咧都冇啦，直到呢個咖啡嘅出現咧，咁佢哋就好似咧揾到呢個解決辦法。咁而家我就喺呢一度咧讀出呢一個作者喺呢本書入邊咧係點樣講明呢一件事嘅。Martin Luther's attempts to limit drinking failed because he had offered no alternative. Then came the great Ottoman coffee suppression of the 1640s, and within 10 years, Europe's first coffee house opened in Oxford, England. Cafes soon appeared in London, where, coincidentally, the Puritans had just seized control of Parliament. When the sweet poison of the treacherous grape had acted on the world a general rape, coffee arrives, that grave and wholesome liquor that heals the stomach and makes the genius quicker. Anonymous Puritan. Written in 1674. 咁咧就係呢一個咖啡作為一個 dark wine 咧，即係佢係一個 black wine 啦，係就可以咧取代咗呢一個即係啲人成日飲醉酒嘅問題啊。咁喺呢本書咧都有提喎，喺倫敦咧第一間即係 cafe 開業咧就係喺1652年嘅時候啦。咁到咗1700年，即係話大約喺50年間咧，就已經咧飆升到咧2000間嘅 cafe 啦。咁可以即係想像到啦，其實就係喺大約17至到或者18世紀初期咧，英國人咧都多咗飲咖啡。咁不過咧，我之後下一集咧就會討論一下，其實喺呢個時候咧，英國人咧又再一次轉向翻呢個飲呢個茶，所以咧其實就後嚟咧英國嘅嗰啲cafe 咧又冇其他歐洲國家咧咁勁喎。喺呢本書嘅即係又跳到去咧，佢就有提到咧coffee 即係咖啡呢樣嘢咧，後來喺呢個歐洲。尤其是咧係同呢個法國大革命咧係好扣上關係。咁一開始我咪讀嗰個即係 introduction 嘅時候咧，佢都已經開始講咗咧，就係法國人啦嚇，似乎咧就將西方嘅文明啦，同埋咧甚至係呢個法國大革命嘅一啲精神或者思潮嘅傳播咧，其實就扣連咗喺咖啡嗰度。咁佢呢個書入邊咧，其實佢都有即係有個章節啦，佢有提到呢一樣嘢。咁我而家就會咧朗讀出嚟啦。By the 1780s, however, things started getting serious. The coffee houses of Palais Royal, wrote English traveller Arthur Young in 1789, present the most astonishing spectacle, crowded within and without by crowds listening to impromptu speeches, the thunder of applause with which they receive every sentiment of violence against the present government cannot be easily imagined. It was at the cafes of the Palais Royal that, on July 12, 1789, Camille Desmoulins leaped upon a table and urged the mob to take up some arms against the aristocracy. It had been done 1,000,000 times before, but this time, after a debate over what the most appropriate color for the revolution would be, green for renewal or red for blood, the cafe's customers actually got out of their seats, went outside, and overthrew the French monarchy, incidentally ending government as it was then known. Some social critics of the time portrayed coffee as the stimulant that helped set off both the Enlightenment and Europe's first democratic revolution. 係啦，事情咧就咁樣發生啦。咖啡館咧似乎就即係同呢個文人啊或者科學家啊啲人喺度流連咧，係即係然後咧就寫詩啊、寫小說啊、醞釀啊、進行思辨啊，即係或者係好似頭先呢一個章節所帶出嚟咁咧，就係呼籲啲人上街啦，都好似係好有關係。咁所以咧就即係將咖啡呢個飲品咧同革命啦同埋西方文明咧就扣上咗等號啦。呢一個咧比較嬉皮士嘅呢個作者咧喺佢呢一本書嘅最後部分咧都提到咧咖啡咧同美國軍人嘅關係。 咁喺頭先我讀嘅一個選段當中咧，都有提啊。其實咧，一杯咖啡嘅英文嘅別稱咧係 cup of Joe。咁 Joe 其實係邊個咧 ？Joe 咧其實係美國海軍上將 Josephus Daniels 呢個人。佢咧係禁止咗海軍咧喺海上飲酒，咁就只可以用以啡代酒啦。咁仲有後嚟即係本書亦都有再繼續提到咧，美軍咧同咖啡呢一樣即係刺激性嘅飲品嘅關係。呢本書啦 The Devil's Cup 咧嘅概要咧，我今日咧就分享到呢度啦。咁聽咗咁多之後，茶同埋咖啡，唔知咧大家中意邊一樣啦？又或者喺我分享嘅呢兩本書入面咧，邊一樣啦，或者邊一本書咧比較吸引你嘅注意呢？咁由於咧呢兩種飲品嘅呢個或者呢兩本書嘅內容咧都非常豐富，所以下一集呢，第8集咧，我就會打算咧將茶同埋咖啡咧就比對住，咁啊再朗讀咧呢兩本書咧嘅一啲其中嘅選段啦，同埋配以咧我自己嘅一啲遊歷去討論咧呢兩種咧極為重要嘅飲料啦。今集米閱讀分享英文書 The Devil's Cup 就嚟到呢一度啦，期待下一集再會。